Hey Ratbags, it's Jade. Today I want to talk about Sons of the Forest and pretty much where or what I want to see improved. I never ended up doing a review for it. I decided it just really wasn't fair with an early access title like this. I did give some first impressions in a couple of videos and I figured that was enough. But probably I'm going to dive into it a bit more today. We have got updates coming thick and fast. The next update is due this Thursday and they're planned to be every either 2 weeks or every month. We also know tentatively what they will be working on due to a Q&A they did with one of the biggest Discords, and I showed you guys all of that last week or so. It's still fair to say that even with their first update, the Sons of the Forest gameplay and reaction from the community is still pretty mixed. There is definitely a lot more people that enjoy and love the game, as I've done a recent poll, and so many of you really are digging it, and you're willing to wait for the updates to improve the stuff that maybe isn't as good. Currently sitting at 82% very positive Steam score out of nearly 100,000 reviews. They've sold absolutely millions. It's clear that Sons of the Forest is a massive hit, as we all kind of predicted. So that in mind, let's start with the 5 things that I really want to see improved, or what I think they need to add in the next few months. So for me, one is definitely getting more interactions with the NPCs as well as the enemies, the cannibals. This was something the devs talked up quite a lot, how the cannibals will learn ideas and that ideas can spread to others. Now they may be so subtle that we haven't fully uncovered the depths of this yet. I have been thinking about possibilities of the cannibals seeing you draped in some of the mutant armor and hence why they suddenly start wearing it too. Are these the kind of small interactions that can change or affect your game or difficulty of it that we just haven't maybe noticed as much, being a direct result of what we're doing affecting the actual cannibals? It's pretty obvious once we start unlocking more of the caves that the mutants start to take over, and you've probably woken up by now in a camp filled with mutants and no cannibals. And the devs have said this, that they will kind of overtake. If you release or kill too many cannibals or you release the mutants, then there could be an imbalance. But other than a few camps being taken over, I don't see too much more of that happening. I was attacked pretty regularly by John even before I completed half the caves in my 100 days. Go and check that out right now on my 100 days channel, it's up there running. And I've heard other reports that they've not had John maybe only once in a good chunk of time. I think it would be nice to know more about these triggers that can send certain things this way. And I guess that might fall on us, the community, to work out. But what can I say? I'm lazy. I want the devs to give me more a direct hint about the consequences of certain things happening. I like the idea of a journal, just like the last one, or the guidebook, the survival book. What if your notes were updated? That every time you completed a cave or a bunker, then in the notebook you would see brand new information detailing that maybe now we're going to get more attacks, or now the mutants are going to come specifically to these areas. Interactions with the cannibals I definitely want to see improved as well. It's clear that the mask works only half the time. Some people hypothesize it will only ever work on just scouts. Other times obviously the raiding tribes are not going to take any notice. And even to the late stages, slight spoiler, when you get the gold mask, it doesn't seem to really do anything like I thought it would in scaring away more raiding parties possibly. And definitely more interactions with the cannibals themselves, maybe going and trading with each other. And we know they have said they're going to open up and improve the camps, make them different, so there'll be all sorts of different sizes and maybe interactions there. And I do definitely want to see more wars and battles going on. Apart from when you wake up in a camp after being knocked out and seeing maybe the mutants killing all the cannibals, you don't see too many fights or ruckuses going on between them. It'd be nice if there were more timed events where both factions were around your base, and then that way you got to see more between them. Now, a bit arbitrary, but I do want to see a roadmap. I don't want to have to just rely on Q&As with Discord every few months. There has to be something more visual that we can reference back or kind of expect. Some people really like the idea of these surprise updates hitting, but I would like more information. They've took some flack, and I think quite rightly so, for announcing early access so late in the day, kind of subverting what a lot of people thought the game would be. And 99% of early access games that come out now will give you indications about what they're working on more thoroughly, not just relying on some community Discord Q&A that you'd be lucky enough if YouTubers have picked up on. No one wants roadmaps that are unrealistic or things that are just not going to be here, and the devs are quite rightly might want to change stuff up or realise that something's not working, as they alluded to in that Q&A. But surely you can outline the next 2 months of updates a bit better. Return to more gameplay features. It definitely needs, I would say, either new building materials to make stuff out of, or certainly more dynamic events that can affect and make you have to build a base. It must be hard to think about implementing a new tile set. They want to keep things realistic, hence why we just basically have logs. Would it be too much of a stretch though to have actual cut timber and actually have boards being able to place? I know we get that on the foundations and the roofs, but it'd be cool if we could actually have that as a wall building piece as well, like a flat one. Something to break up a little bit more the monotony of just logs everywhere. And of course, I want more building pieces, more decorative pieces, and some more crafting options as well to help. The shelving's okay and stuff like that, but it would be nice if this all did contribute to more of a buff for being comfortable or rested. I know it's an old one that so many other games already have started doing, and Valheim's pretty much mastered it at this point, but so many other games have always had it, whether it's been Ark Survival Evolved, Rust, you name it, we've all had a bonus from sitting by your campfire. Maybe that'll be something they add once they start thinking about the electrical items. Like we're missing, obviously, the solar panels, the batteries, and these are the kinds of things that I would really love to see added as well. Having more chance to have stuff like that with electricity and to help us through winter. How cool would it be if we can have floodlights everywhere light up at night time when we're getting attacked by bandits? Operate an actual fridge to keep meat fresher instead of just leaving it on the actual dryer. But all of that doesn't really matter unless base building becomes a necessity. We all know now, hopefully you do, maybe you're just really only getting into it, but you can complete this game without ever building a base. You can pretty much set up a couple shelves outside the 3D printer cave, or even find some of the caves and literally just put a few shelves in there and a bed and you're done. Like, don't get me wrong, if you only ever put a campfire and some shelves right out in the open at one specific spot and you spend a lot of time there, you will get raided and you probably will find a lot of them shelves destroyed, losing all your items. But as I said, the minute attack starts to come, you can just run into the bunker at the 3D cave and you're pretty much going to avoid a lot of trouble. So making it that the actual raids have more consequences and it's going to be more dangerous, but scales up accordingly. Towards my end of my 100 days, in fact not even the end, I reckon about day 25 was when everything started to ramp up for me. I was under ceaseless attack and maybe it was just the position that I built my base, although I thought I was being careful not to build too close to any paths. As said, I faced John multiple upon multiple times and every day pretty much I would have an attack from some sort of group or bandits or the muddies. So get the balance right, don't make it too punishing where you absolutely can't get through the game unless you've built a walled fortress at the very beginning by day 2, but it does need to ramp up afterwards and it has to have clear indications, which would we rely on by checking our notebook, that things are about to get harder. All of that will hopefully help improve point number 4. We need more replayability. So how do you do that? How can you get more replayability in a game? Well, let's start off with the problem. If you go ahead and race through the game, even at a moderate slow pace where you've built yourself a decent little base and completed all the story objectives, gone around all the caves, you're still probably only looking at around 15 to 20 hours. If you focus just on the core story, don't go exploring everywhere and only build yourself a moderate little tiny cottage, then you could probably race through in about 6 hours. This is why the drop off for the game has been so huge. After the first 2 or 3 weeks, we're now looking at around 26 to 36,000 players on a daily basis, rather than the 400,000 peak that it reached pretty much on the first weekend. Now this is fairly normal, I'm not going to rag them out, loads of games have had this, but the drop off, particularly for Sons of the Forest, has been larger than most. It's not a multiplayer server based game. I'm not expecting it to be consistently hitting 60, 70,000 players like something like Rust or Ark. And just like Valheim, I've got no problem if updates are actually slowed down a little bit to provide more meaningful content, because I know I can come back to it and revisit it and have fun once I've had a little break. But even so, I think any game that runs out of steam after maybe a week of playing, there's definitely a problem there. There's lots of things that make this game amazing. The world, the immersion, it's fantastic. But the actual core mechanics that are there at the moment to keep you playing kind of get one note and very repetitive. Again, speaking from experience, as I did complete 100 days, I tried pacing myself really well, obviously to make the content. I was trying to do a dungeon sort of every 10 days or so, or explore certain places. And it's all just so similar. It's all just fighting attack after attack of cannibals or Johns with no real differences. So what can be improved? Well, actually being able to control how many attacks you get and stuff like that, giving us more world options. Once again, there's no creative mode, and if it's like the original, you couldn't get it until you finished the game. It's complete bollocks in 2023. I think, frankly, most survival games should benefit from having a full creative mode to give players the chance, like builders out there, to be able to build instead of relying on duplication glitches or modded. It would open up more replayability for certain players. It might be a small subset, but definitely a big subset of players enjoy building, and having the freedom to test stuff out on a test server or test game before going back into their main, I think a lot of people would appreciate. Being able to summon attacks when you want as well. So like I said, it does get a bit monotonous just fighting the same creatures. Obviously we know we're going to get more new ones and stuff added, but being able to control how that happens. Maybe we could set up a, I don't know, sound system that would release a call and it would attract creatures pretty much like a hall defense. And maybe this can be set off to go increasingly more difficult. If the core mechanic of the game is defending your base against the creatures that you encounter day after day, then why not ramp it up to really incredible levels for the challenge, the fun, and again, more replayability. Wave 1, attack of the muddies. Wave 2, a few cannibals. Wave 3, attack of the red boys. Wave 4, start to get mutants. Wave 5, mutants and cannibals. Wave 6, you get the idea. By the time you get to wave 10 or 20, you've got about 10 Johns attacking you with a whole bunch of fingers and more. I'm trying to give ideas here. I hate things that criticise without actually any constructive ideas about how to fix or solve. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So it may seem a bit outlandish, but I'm just kind of ruminating. Obviously, again, we know the world is massive and it does look like a lot of it is empty. So it does need to be filled. And I guess that is probably the last point. There's a lot of talk about the GPS system ruining the game. The fact that it shows pretty much all the story beats that you go to at the beginning. Hence why so many players have raced through content and are now finished and they're waiting for updates. And they're right, they are right. But judging by the size of the map, can you imagine if there was absolutely no help at all? How the fuck would you find anything in this game? The original was small, but it was still pretty frustrating that you could miss out caves. I didn't even realise where the Katana cave was for about 2.5 years. You can't create a game where players will intentionally miss out on content in it because it hasn't been signposted enough. So there is a balance there. What the answer is, I'm not too sure. Maybe it could be a case of radio towers that will set up areas of effect that you have to activate. And these could be great little mini boss fights where we encounter more mutants. Turn the button on, switches the radio antenna on, and for a small area around there, it will then illuminate any story objectives. I know, it's Far Cry or whatever the hell, generic open RPG, but the reason they put that shit in is because it needs it. You can't have thousands of acres of land to explore, but not actually have any help in finding what you really need to get to. And when it comes to the map as well, clearly the northwest section is the most utilised, or the west section of the map. And so much more of it just empty, devoid of any real kind of life or any reason to go and explore. The glider was a good addition, but it's very limited and it's kind of janky how people will have to kind of just rely on it respawning every few days and then not really being able to utilise it once you're on too much of a flat ground. So ways to get across the map I think are going to be even more important, or making it even easier to set up zip lines so that you can even go further. Every comment under the sun on some of my videos when I spoke about this said they want the golf carts added, and that would be freaking amazing to go along the paths on your golf cart. So yeah, that is a good idea. But the world does need more. It needs more overground objectives to take care of instead of just the caves. The caves themselves need redesigned, or the ones that will hopefully come in the future, to be more like the original. And I think everyone's probably agreed with that. The caves just haven't felt as scary or as challenging as the original. There was something really nail-biting and horrific about going down a rope into the darkness that has been lost completely with the sequel. So much of Sons of the Forest has taken what was good about the original and improved upon it, but they have left out so much that players really loved as well. So I'm expecting that to improve. We know, as I said, from the Q&As they've done, that we are going to see more encampments added, different styles and stuff, but more interactions between them and just more things to go and explore and do overground and make the map worthwhile. Have better resources scattered around, have some of the more important tools and weapons spread further so it's not in at just one area. And that is pretty much it. That's my 5 sort of suggestions where I'm at with Sons of the Forest now. The first update was solid. It had content that I wasn't expecting, like the glider and stuff, although many have pointed out that it probably should have been in there from the beginning. And I don't want to be one of these dickheads that just wants content for their YouTube videos, because so many tubers are like that. I'm trying to really understand from the player base. And when you start seeing the drop in players, then you can understand why certain people want certain things. People rag on Valheim for having a massive drop and maybe going too long without updates, but that sustained its player base for a good amount of time compared to the drop that we've seen with Sons of the Forest. So clearly replayability and maybe too much hand-holding with the story at the beginning has really maybe harmed or made people go through this a lot quicker. I'm confident they'll take it forward. I don't think they'll listen or do any of the suggestions that I've stated. Anyway, End Night have pretty much always got their own set goals in mind. But you never know. Give me your ideas or suggestions about what you want to see improved and what you expect from updates going forward for the game. And as always, I'll be back with updated news for Sons of the Forest. The plan is for me now to cover more Sons of the Forest for sure, with every update every 2 weeks or every month, alongside my Valheim content, and we have got Dead Islands coming soon as well. So I will be mixing it in a bit more. And yeah, please, please, please go and check out my 100 days. I spent a hell of a long time streaming it, and you'll be able to see me stream more. And go and check out the final video that I did on my new channel, JPG 100 Days. Until next time, bye bye.